Oh, hey there, this is Jerry. I'm getting started on another episode of What's Broke Today. And if you remember, if you've seen the video on my front brakes, I had the master cylinder for the drum brakes. The fluid was low. So I thought, well, we better check out and figure out why. And we look at the left rear tire, and then we kind of look at the drum. We're oily down here. And I'll say we got fluid on this side. I go to the passenger side, and you can see the passenger side tire is dry, and the drum is completely dry. So this side should be good. And that drum slides right off. And yeah, I mean, that all looks good, but I think I've replaced that wheel cylinder, and that wheel cylinder looks good, but if you look at the lining, it's got all kinds of cracks in it. So we're gonna swap everything out anyway. Then we get back to the driver's side, and one quick hit knocked that drum off. And you can see it is all wet inside there and all over the brake shoes. And these aren't quite as cracked as the other side, but luckily I'd already bought the new parts, and I'll show you them shortly. Now, to talk about my rear brake job, it's not a surprise. I'd already planned this job, so I had 2 new drums, my new shoes, all new hardware, springs, blah blah in that bag. Even got the wheel adjuster kits for both sides. I got wheel cylinders for both sides. I got a rear brake hose. I even bought parking brake cables. Even though I haven't tried the parking brake, I'm actually going to see if it works. I may leave them alone. Okay, getting started our disassembly process. And if you have trouble remembering things, is to only do one side at a time. But so when I take these apart, first thing I'm going to do is get underneath here, and that spring that goes from the bottom over to the adjuster arm, if I can grab a hold of it, I'm going to use my wire cutters and remove that spring, or try to. And then when we do that, then our adjuster cable comes loose, and we can get our self-adjuster arm out of the way. And then the next thing, we use our brake spring pliers. I'm just going to come up here and get underneath that, and twist it, and pop the spring off. And just pay attention that the shorter spring is on the front, longer spring's on the back. And if you take this apart and you're having trouble remembering, as long as you don't take both sides apart at the same time, you can just go look at the other side and just copy it and put it back together. And on the rear spring, it's got the little deal that the self-adjuster cable goes around, the spring goes through it. Then we can get our self-adjuster cable out of the way, and then we'll take our hold down springs, pop them off. Now this, from the factory, it even had one of those hold down deals for that hold down spring on the back side, but when we go back together, I'll have all new and we won't use the second one. And once we get that, then the first shoe comes out, and then we got our self-adjuster, and of course we got our link, or basically our park and brake arm, and we got to reuse. Then we'll go to the back side. Get that one off, and then since I got new park and brake cables, I'm just gonna use my wire cutters, pull that spring back, and then unhook, and then we'll go over, because we've got to transfer this arm. And I'm just twisting the line. And for now, I'm just going to take my needle nose vice grips and put on the brake hose while I have all the brake lines open. I'm going to pinch off that hose so we don't leak brake fluid. Since it wouldn't come loose on the outside, I was going to come back here. I cleaned that off earlier, and the inside ones will turn. But they had oil on them, where these out here at the wheel cylinder, it was turning the line. Now I'm just going to take my wire cutters and see if I can just cut that line. These two little rods here, we got to reuse them. And then a 1/2 inch socket to take the, unbolt the wheel cylinder. And there's our wheel cylinder, and now when I open the boot, I mean, that is nasty. But that's just getting it tore apart. That I'm gonna go ahead and throw some of this stuff. I got a cat food bag here to throw my trash in. Well, I'm gonna shut the camera off. I'm gonna wire brush and clean this and get the park and brake cable out, because when I take it out here, since I'm not reusing it, I may just break the little retainer tabs off, and I gotta get up underneath and unhook it too. Now, as I get ready to remove that park and brake thing's held on with this funny looking little horseshoe clip, and I'm just gonna take and turn it around so it's facing out toward me, and then try and get that screwdriver down in there. And I just take 2 flat bladed screwdrivers, and it'd help if I had 2 really good ones. Let's see if I can find a better, because I broke the end of that one. Alright, so I'm going to take my 2 flat bladed screwdrivers. I'm going to put one up in the groove and take the other one and just pry them, and just twist and pry and spread that horseshoe out so I can knock it off there, and then our arm will come out. And then I gotta go clean that up. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just wire brushed it and then hosed it off with brake clean. And then from the factory, this actually has, which I think that's some kind of a fiber, or, you know, it's not metal, whatever that is. When you get the kit, it comes with a hardware kit comes with a little spring washer to go on there, which looks like it's too big, but that's what they made. And then throw our old shoe away, and then we go make sure we put on the correct shoe. If you look at the two shoes, you'll see the lining on one is longer than it is on the other, and the shoe with the long lining goes toward the rear of the vehicle. So, and that also corresponds, you can compare it to the one I took that bracket off of and see how it's got the longer lining. And of course I know it goes up there like that, and this was on the back side. Now I just push that through and slide the new horseshoe clip down on there. Like so. Make sure you got it seated all the way down in, and then just turn that up like that. And I just take my wire cutters, take those two little ears, and I just squeeze them together so it holds on there, and then we're ready to go. Because what that's doing is when you set the parking brake, the cable pulls on this, and that bar that went in between the two shoes sets in here, and that pushes these shoes out to set the brake. So yeah, go do a little more cleaning up, and then we'll start going back together. Okay, now getting ready to swap out this parking brake cable. It's got those little spring clips, and there's typically 3 of them. So we locate, there's one there, there's one on top, and we can, with that one I think I'll just break it and get it out of the way, like so. Now maybe we can break 2 of them. There we go, there's second one. There we go. You just pull that cable out. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this one, and these are definitely left and right, so you got to make sure you put them on the correct side, because the length is a little different. And I just snap that one back in. Alright, I get back up under the truck. I'm just going to take that cable and pull, and then just unhook it up here. Because that cable still, this one somewhat works, the other side it's toast. So I'll get them both unhooked while I'm under here. Spring holding it. Break one off. And number 2. You gotta watch stuff falling, hitting you in the face. That I got my glasses on, so that kind of saves my eyes. But then pull out my old cable and stick it through there and snap it. And come up here and hook it. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this end of this one. That out of there. Alright, I can take my cable for the passenger side and put it up through there. And grab that. I got to make sure up there at the front in that T-bar that it stays in the right spot. Now we just got to pull the cable, put it through its hole, and there we go. We're locked in there. Okay, now we're ready to go back together. First thing I'm going to do is bolt up my wheel cylinder, and they are left and right. And how you can tell is when you put it in there, the line, the port goes toward the rear of the truck. So we can put that up there and start our bolts. Okay, I'll get that tight. And we got our plungers, that these are what pushes out and applies the brake shoes. So we got to get them put in the boots. Get those in there. I'll get some of my pieces ready. Since I got my new parking brake cable in, I can take my wire cutters and push the spring back a little. And then hook the cable. And now I'm going to take some of my green grease, and where those shoes are going to touch the backing plate, I'm just going to put a little bit of this grease on there. We wipe off our fingers, trying not to get grease on the brake shoes. I'm going to go ahead and stick my 2 pins through the back. Get that little bit of excess off of there and put it on the back. Okay, then we'll get our retainer here and a very must-have tool for applying these. Get those put together. Then we can bring this up around. I put my finger on the back side of the backing plate and push the pin in. Oh, if I don't drop it. You wonder why I have a little bit of trouble with that. The end of that's flattened off, and it's got to go through the hole, and then I got to rotate it so it'll lock. And not as easy looking and seeing that as you'd think it'd be. Now I'm going to put my cable up there, grab the rear spring, put it in that bracket. There we go. And the cable's got to go over the top. And I just take it back there and hang it on that bracket. And I can take my brake spring pliers and put that in there. Alright, get that on there, and then I'm going to put our crossbar in. And take the shoe and slide up there like so. Okay, got that on there. Now we can get all this other stuff lined up. Okay, we got to get it on the wheel cylinder, on the parking brake thing. We take our other spring and hook in there. Slide it over and hook it, and then that all looks good. Then I can take my wheel adjuster and put in the bottom. And then we got our arm, hook it to our cable, put it in its hole. And take our adjuster spring and there, and I'll get a grip on that, get that in place. I got to scoot up where I can see. Pull that spring and hook it. And there we go. That don't work as good as the old one did. But then we can take our drum. And I got a long ways to go, so okay. And there's side number one. All the brakes done short of fixing the brake line. I'm going to go do all this same stuff to the other side, and then I'll come back, because I'm actually going to make my own brake lines. So I'm going to come back when I get ready to make lines. Okay, now doing my, I'm going to make my own brake lines. So I bought a roll of that copper nickel brake line. It comes in like 25-foot rolls. And I bought an assortment of fittings that it has all kinds for this 3/16 brake line. And I pulled me out 4 of the smaller ones that go in both ends of these lines. And I went ahead and flared one end. And these have to be a double flare for a brake line. And then I kind of roughly made these to length, because I know we got to come down off the wheel cylinder, then across, and I'm just trying to mimic the bends that were already in the old line, somewhat the same. The only thing that's a little different is I'm not going to bend this end till I get ready to put it on, because where this brake line, they come out 90 degrees, the one I took off, they come out at a 45 about, so it's kind of a Y. So I made this just a hair longer. I'm going to start out doing a quick deburr. Make sure you got your fittings on there, and then I've got, this is made by Vevor, and it's a hydraulic crimper, and basically I'm going to push that through there, and then on the inside of it, it's got it's kind of tapered, and you put your line in till it is at the bottom of that taper. Then we lock it down, and then the first thing is this flare is actually going to make it kind of like a bubble. So I'm going to put it in, and what I like about this, it's hydraulic, and I get it up in there, and then I just squeeze that, and you know you're done when the tool bottoms out. And of course that does get stuck up in there a little bit, so I'll just use my screwdriver and push it back. And basically just puts a little bubble on the end of that. And then take this cone shape. I'll take the cone shaped one, put down in there. And go and do the same thing, and the cone one always comes right out. Now after we get done with that, we can loosen it up there and pull this out, separate the dies, and then we got our inverted flare, and we're ready to go put this on and finish the bending and get it like I want it. Do the same thing. And this tool I'm using is a deburring tool. It's taking and cleaning up where I cut it with my tubing cutter. And since I'm doing the line, I haven't bent it yet. I'm just putting the line down through there and not even worrying about the fitting yet. And we'll take our bubble part. I can drop that down in there. I'll pull that out. Got my flare on that end. And then I'm going to put one nut on facing the flare, and the other one put it on exactly opposite. Tighten that up and then make sure your nuts are opposite. That one in there. And you do got to watch and make sure that pin that's on the tip of the first tool goes up in the line. See, and there it slid right out just fine, but yeah, that pin's got to go in the hole in the line. Drop that one down, and then make sure the point of that needle goes up in the hole, and then just crimp her down. And that's all there is to it. I'll start out here where it went to the wheel, and put the first bend in it like so. Kind of match it up. Then I'll finish up that end after I get to the back to the truck. And that's all there is to that. Now it's time to go to the truck. I'm gonna start out. I got the old line off the axle and it's up out of the way, and I'm gonna take the new line, go ahead and get it bolted on. Okay, get that bolted on, and then pull my plug off my wheel cylinder and figure out I did a terrible job of guessing on that bend. But so I got that in there, and then slide this up here and I'll put a little bit of angle in that and get it lined up with the hole. Get that tightened up. I can tighten this one. I was going to adjust that just a little to keep it from rubbing on the axle, and then need a new breather hose, but I'm just going to slide that on there for now because it was broke off, but need a new piece of hose. And then we'll go to the other side. I'm going to hook it. It's got things on the axle. I'll show you a little bit, but where I can hook that. Okay, so I got that bent around started on the far end, and then here, get it, make sure it's in my bracket, and then we got to come up, kind of like that. Okay, once I get all those tight, and then see where it goes through the axle there, once I get it back in place, I'm just going to take my hammer and gently drive that down till it secures the line, and just kind of adjust it so it's not hitting anything. And then last but not least is I'm going to pull the old hose off, and luckily I come under here earlier just to make sure the line was going to come free, because I didn't want to be getting ready to change this and the steel line was rusted to the nut and I couldn't get it apart. Getting my wrench on there sucks. Of course, I made sure the master cylinder was full. And getting that horseshoe clip out has proven to be a challenge. Okay, I get it out, then I can, now, gets back at saying nothing ever works as slick as you think it's going to. Get that unhooked. I can take it. Get that nut started in the new line, and put that up there. Yeah, because I want to get that back through the opening, horseshoe clip in. Okay, get the goopy kink out of the hose, and then we'll tighten this up. Alright, now we're ready to start bleeding the brakes. Well, going to finish up my episode of the brakes on the 77 F150. That I got the front brakes done, got the back brakes done, got everything bled out. Everything turned out good. Truck stops better than it has in a long time, and stops good and straight. That you know, yeah, took her out for a drive. Everything worked good. That I appreciate you watching. That I'll say just stay tuned, because I'll tell them what else you're going to see on What's Broke Today. Thank you.